There is a quiet battle taking place inside millions of hearts and perhaps inside yours. It is not always visible. It doesn't announce itself with loud footsteps or dramatic moments. Sometimes it arrives in the silence of the morning before anyone else is awake. Sometimes it whispers just before you fall asleep, replaying every mistake, every possibility, every unanswered question until your mind becomes a prison built from thoughts that have never happened. Fear has a remarkable way of convincing us that tomorrow is already lost, while anxiety steals the beauty of the only moment we truly possess, the one we are living right now. But what if everything you've been taught about defeating fear has been incomplete? What if courage is not the absence of fear, and peace is not the reward for controlling every circumstance? What if the answer has been waiting quietly beneath all the noise, hidden in a place you stopped looking because life taught you to search everywhere else? There is a secret that transforms the way fear lives inside you. It does not require extraordinary talent, endless confidence, or a perfect life. It begins with a single shift in the way you see yourself. Too often we believe that fear is our enemy, something to wrestle into submission. We exhaust ourselves trying to outrun it, silence it, or pretend it doesn't exist. Yet every time we deny it, it grows louder. Every time we resist it, it tightens its grip. The greatest paradox is that the freedom we seek does not come from fighting the darkness, but from discovering the light that has always existed within us. That light has survived every disappointment, every heartbreak, every sleepless night, and every moment you believed you weren't strong enough. Today is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering the strength that fear convinced you to forget. It is about uncovering the quiet wisdom that has been waiting beneath the noise of worry, waiting for the moment you finally decide to listen. And once you hear it, once you recognize it, fear may still knock at your door, but it will never again be allowed to own your home. Fear rarely begins with reality itself. More often, it begins with the stories we tell ourselves about reality. A single uncertain moment can quickly become a chain of imagined disasters. A delayed phone call becomes a sign that something terrible has happened. One mistake at work becomes evidence that failure is inevitable. A difficult conversation becomes the beginning of rejection. The mind has an extraordinary ability to create entire futures from fragments of uncertainty. And when those imagined futures are filled with danger, fear takes root long before anything has actually occurred. Understanding this process is one of the most powerful steps toward freedom because it reveals that not every thought deserves your belief. The human mind is designed to protect you. Throughout history, it learned to search for danger because survival depended on noticing threats before they arrived. That instinct once kept people alive in harsh environments. But today, the same protective mechanism often mistakes uncertainty for danger. Instead of wild animals or natural disasters, it reacts to unanswered emails, financial concerns, social expectations, or memories of past disappointments. The brain cannot always distinguish between an actual threat and a vividly imagined one. When you repeatedly picture failure, rejection, or loss, your body responds as though those events are already unfolding. Your heart races, your muscles tense, and your breathing changes, even while you sit safely in a quiet room. This is why fear often feels so convincing. It speaks with certainty even when it has no evidence. It tells you that the worst outcome is the most likely one. It magnifies small problems until they appear impossible to overcome. It encourages you to mistake imagination for prediction. Yet thoughts are not prophecies. They are mental events that come and go, influenced by memories, emotions, habits, and experiences. Learning to observe them instead of immediately believing them changes everything. Awareness creates space between you and your thoughts. Instead of saying, "This terrible thing is going to happen," you begin to notice, "I am having a thought that something terrible might happen." That small shift changes your relationship with fear. Rather than becoming trapped inside the story, you become the observer of it. You recognize that your mind is offering possibilities, not certainties. This awareness weakens fear because it removes the illusion that every anxious thought represents reality. Many of the fears that consume our energy never become real. People spend years worrying about failures that never happen, illnesses that never arrive, relationships that never end, and judgments that never come. Meanwhile, life continues to unfold in ways they never expected, often bringing opportunities, kindness, and strength that anxiety could never predict. Fear tells only one version of the future, and it is almost always the darkest one. Reality is far more complex, balanced, and full of unexpected possibilities. Every fearful story also hides another story waiting to be discovered. Instead of imagining that you will fail, imagine that you will learn. Instead of believing rejection will destroy you, remember that it may redirect you toward something better. Instead of assuming uncertainty means disaster, consider that uncertainty is also where growth, creativity, and transformation begin. Every meaningful chapter of life starts with something unknown. No dream, relationship, achievement, or personal breakthrough comes with absolute guarantees. When you stop accepting every fearful thought as truth, you reclaim your ability to choose your response. You begin asking better questions. Is this thought based on evidence or assumption? Am I reacting to what is happening now or to what I imagine could happen? Is this fear protecting me from real danger, or is it protecting me from discomfort, vulnerability, or change? These questions interrupt the automatic patterns that keep anxiety alive and invite wisdom to replace impulse. Over time, this practice transforms your inner world. Fear may still appear because it is part of being human, but it no longer becomes the author of your decisions. It becomes one voice among many instead of the loudest one. The stories that once held you captive begin to lose their authority, making room for calmer thoughts, clearer judgment, deeper confidence, and a life guided more by truth than imagination. Many people spend years believing that peace will come only after fear disappears. They wait for the day when they will no longer feel nervous, uncertain, or overwhelmed before they allow themselves to move forward. Yet this expectation creates an exhausting cycle because emotions cannot simply be switched off. The harder you try to suppress fear, the stronger it often becomes. Like a wave pushing against a wall, resistance creates pressure. The mind begins to focus even more intensely on the very feeling it wants to escape. This is why fighting your emotions rarely leads to freedom. Real peace begins when you stop treating your emotions as enemies and start understanding them as temporary visitors. Fear is not a sign of weakness. It is a natural response that has helped human beings survive for thousands of years. It alerts you to possible danger and prepares your body to respond. However, problems arise when fear remains long after the threat has passed, or when it is triggered by imagined situations rather than real ones. Instead of recognizing fear as a passing emotion, many people identify with it. They begin to say, "I am an anxious person," rather than "I am experiencing anxiety." That subtle difference shapes how they see themselves. One describes a temporary experience. The other becomes an identity. Healing begins when you separate who you are from what you feel. Acceptance does not mean giving up or allowing fear to control your life. It means acknowledging what is happening within you without judgment. Imagine standing in the rain. You can spend all your energy complaining about the weather, wishing it were different, or pretending it is not raining at all. None of those responses stop the rain. But when you accept the reality of the moment, you can choose to open an umbrella, seek shelter, or continue walking with wisdom instead of frustration. Emotions work in much the same way. Denying them does not make them disappear. Accepting them allows you to respond with clarity rather than panic. When you stop running from fear, something remarkable happens. You begin to notice that emotions rise, peak, and eventually fade. No feeling lasts forever. Even the strongest wave cannot remain at its highest point indefinitely. Fear convinces you that it will stay forever, but experience proves otherwise. Every emotion changes when it is given space instead of resistance. This understanding reduces the urgency that anxiety creates. Instead of believing you must escape the feeling immediately, you learn that you can remain present while it passes through you. Self-compassion is another essential part of this journey. Many people respond to fear with harsh criticism. They tell themselves they should be stronger, braver, or more confident. They become angry with themselves for feeling vulnerable. Yet this inner criticism adds another layer of suffering. Now they are not only afraid, they are ashamed of being afraid. Compassion breaks this cycle. Speaking to yourself with patience and kindness does not make you weak. It reminds your nervous system that you are safe enough to face difficult emotions without attacking yourself. There is also great wisdom in understanding that emotions carry messages rather than commands. Fear may be inviting you to prepare more carefully, set healthier boundaries, or slow down long enough to reflect. It does not always mean you should stop. Sometimes it simply asks you to pay attention. When you listen without immediately obeying every fearful impulse, you gain the ability to choose your actions according to your values instead of your anxiety. Courage is not the absence of uncomfortable emotions. It is the decision to move with purpose even while those emotions are present. As this practice becomes part of your daily life, your relationship with yourself begins to change. You no longer measure your strength by how little fear you feel, but by how gently and wisely you respond when it appears. You discover that peace is not hidden somewhere beyond difficult emotions. It grows within the very moments when you stop resisting your inner experience, breathe through the discomfort, and trust that every feeling, no matter how intense, is temporary, allowing resilience to take deeper root with each passing moment. Anxiety has a remarkable ability to pull the mind away from the life that is unfolding right now. It persuades you to live in a future that does not yet exist, filling your thoughts with endless questions, imagined problems, and uncertain outcomes. You begin rehearsing conversations that may never happen, preparing for failures that may never come, and carrying burdens that have not yet been placed on your shoulders. While your body remains in the present, your mind wanders into tomorrow, next month, or even years ahead. In doing so, it overlooks the only place where peace can truly be experienced, the present moment. The present is often quieter than the stories anxiety creates. Right now, in this very breath, you may be safe. Right now, your feet may be firmly planted on the ground, your heart still beating faithfully, and your life continuing one moment at a time. Yet anxiety rarely allows you to notice these simple truths. Instead, it convinces you that peace can only come after every uncertainty has been solved. It whispers that you must predict every possible outcome before you can finally relax. But life has never worked that way. No human being has ever secured complete certainty about the future, and chasing that impossible goal only deepens anxiety. The mind naturally seeks control because control feels like safety. It believes that if it thinks hard enough, plans carefully enough, or worries long enough, it can prevent pain. In reality, excessive worry does not prepare you for tomorrow. It simply drains the strength you need for today. Every minute spent imagining disasters is a minute stolen from living, learning, connecting, and growing. The future deserves preparation, but it does not deserve your constant occupation. Returning to the present is not about ignoring responsibilities or pretending challenges do not exist. It is about giving your full attention to what you can influence in this moment. You cannot solve next week's problems today, but you can take today's next right step. You cannot control every possibility, but you can control how you breathe, how you speak, how you respond, and where you place your attention. These small choices may seem insignificant, yet they gradually restore a sense of stability that anxiety tries to take away. One of the greatest gifts of the present moment is clarity. When your mind races into the future, everything appears tangled and overwhelming. Problems multiply because imagination has no limits. But when you focus on what is directly in front of you, the path often becomes much simpler. Instead of asking, "How will I survive everything that could happen?" you begin asking, "What is the next wise thing I can do?" That question is manageable. It invites action instead of paralysis. It replaces endless speculation with meaningful progress. The present also teaches trust. Every challenge you have overcome in your life was faced one day at a time, not all at once. You did not carry the weight of an entire year in a single morning. You met each circumstance as it arrived, discovering strength you did not know you possessed. Anxiety wants you to believe that future difficulties will crush you, but your past tells a different story. Again and again, you adapted, learned, healed, and continued moving forward. The strength that carried you then has not disappeared. It remains within you now, ready to meet whatever comes when it actually arrives. Living in the present does not erase uncertainty, but it changes your relationship with it. You stop demanding guarantees before taking a step. You begin to appreciate ordinary moments that once passed unnoticed. A quiet sunrise, a meaningful conversation, the rhythm of your breath, the comfort of stillness. These moments become reminders that life is not only found in major achievements or distant goals, but also in the countless ordinary experiences that anxiety often persuades us to overlook. As your attention settles more fully into the present, worry gradually loses its authority. Your mind becomes less crowded by imagined futures. And your heart discovers that the deepest sense of security has never depended on knowing what tomorrow holds, but on fully inhabiting the gift of today with calm awareness and quiet confidence. The most influential voice you will ever hear is not the one coming from the people around you. It is the one that speaks inside your mind every single day. Long before anyone offers encouragement or criticism, your inner voice has already shaped the way you see yourself. It interprets your successes, magnifies your failures, questions your worth, and predicts your future. When that voice becomes harsh and unforgiving, fear and anxiety find fertile ground to grow. But when it becomes compassionate, wise, and truthful, it transforms into a place of refuge that no external circumstance can easily disturb. Many people develop an inner critic without realizing it. It is often formed through years of difficult experiences, unrealistic expectations, painful disappointments, or constant comparison with others. Over time, those experiences become internal conversations. Instead of saying, "I made a mistake," the mind begins to say, "I am a failure." Instead of recognizing one setback as temporary, it concludes that nothing will ever improve. These thoughts may seem automatic, but they are learned patterns rather than permanent truths. The good news is that what has been learned can also be changed. Fear depends on negative self-talk because it draws strength from doubt. Every time you tell yourself that you are incapable, unworthy, or destined to fail, anxiety gains another reason to stay. It begins to shape your decisions before life even has the opportunity to reveal what is possible. You avoid opportunities because you assume rejection. You remain silent because you expect judgment. You postpone dreams because you believe you are not ready. In many cases, the greatest obstacle is not the challenge itself, but the conversation happening within your own mind. Changing that conversation does not mean pretending everything is perfect or repeating empty phrases you do not believe. Genuine encouragement is rooted in honesty. It acknowledges difficulty while reminding you of your resilience. Instead of saying nothing bad will ever happen, a compassionate inner voice says, "Whatever happens, I have faced challenges before, and I can face this one too." Instead of insisting that fear should disappear, it gently reminds you that courage often walks beside fear rather than replacing it. This kind of self-talk builds confidence because it is grounded in experience instead of fantasy. Every day provides opportunities to strengthen this inner voice. When something goes wrong, notice how you respond to yourself. Do you offer understanding, or do you become your own harshest judge? If a close friend came to you feeling afraid or discouraged, you would probably speak with patience, kindness, and hope. Yet many people deny themselves the same compassion they freely offer others. Learning to extend that same grace inward creates emotional safety. It tells your nervous system that even in moments of failure or uncertainty, you will not abandon yourself. An inner refuge is built through repeated choices. It grows every time you challenge a destructive thought with a truthful one. It grows when you celebrate small victories instead of dismissing them. It grows when you recognize your progress instead of measuring yourself against impossible standards. It grows when you allow your mistakes to become teachers instead of permanent labels. These habits slowly reshape the way your mind responds to life's uncertainties. The world will always contain criticism, unexpected difficulties, and moments of disappointment. You cannot control every opinion or every circumstance, but you can cultivate a voice within that remains steady when everything outside feels uncertain. That voice becomes a reminder that your value is not determined by one failure, one rejection, or one fearful moment. It reminds you that your identity is deeper than your emotions and stronger than your circumstances. As this compassionate inner dialogue becomes more natural, fear gradually loses one of its greatest allies. Anxiety can no longer convince you that you are alone because you have become a trustworthy companion to yourself. Even during difficult seasons, your own thoughts begin to offer comfort instead of condemnation, wisdom instead of panic, and hope instead of despair, creating a quiet sanctuary within your heart where courage continues to grow regardless of the storms surrounding you. One of the greatest sources of fear and anxiety is the belief that we must control everything in order to be safe. We convince ourselves that if we can predict every outcome, prevent every mistake, and prepare for every possible problem, then we will finally be at peace. Yet the more tightly we try to control life, the more anxious we often become. This is because life has never been completely predictable. Unexpected events, changing circumstances, and uncertain futures are part of every human journey. The pursuit of total control is an impossible mission, and chasing it leaves the mind exhausted and the heart restless. Trust, on the other hand, offers a different path. Trust does not promise that life will always be easy or that difficulties will never come. Instead, it reminds you that you possess the strength to meet whatever life brings. It shifts your attention away from controlling every circumstance and toward developing the resilience to respond wisely. This subtle change transforms the way you experience uncertainty. Instead of seeing the unknown as an enemy, you begin to see it as a space where growth, learning, and unexpected blessings can emerge. Many people confuse trust with passivity, but they are not the same. Trust does not mean refusing to plan or abandoning responsibility. It means doing what you can with integrity, wisdom, and effort while accepting that some things will always remain beyond your control. You prepare for tomorrow without allowing tomorrow to steal today's peace. You make thoughtful decisions without believing you can eliminate every risk. This balanced approach allows you to remain engaged with life without becoming consumed by worry. The need for control often disguises itself as responsibility. You may replay conversations repeatedly, trying to find the perfect words you should have said. You may overanalyze every decision, believing that one wrong choice will ruin your future. You may delay important opportunities because you are waiting for complete certainty before taking action. Yet certainty is rarely available. Those who experience meaningful growth are not people who have every answer. They are people who learn to move forward despite unanswered questions. Trust also deepens your relationship with yourself. Every challenge you have survived is evidence that you are more capable than fear wants you to believe. There were moments in your past when you had no idea how things would work out, yet somehow you found a way through. You adapted, learned, recovered, and continued. Those experiences are reminders that your strength is not theoretical. It has already been tested. Every obstacle you overcame became proof that resilience grows through experience rather than prediction. For many people, trust also includes faith in something greater than themselves. Whether that faith is rooted in God, a higher purpose, or the quiet belief that life carries meaning beyond immediate understanding, it offers comfort during uncertain seasons. It reminds us that not every unanswered question requires an immediate answer, and that not every closed door is a permanent loss. Sometimes what feels like a delay becomes preparation. Sometimes what appears to be an ending quietly becomes the beginning of something far more meaningful than we could have imagined. Letting go of excessive control is not a single decision, but a daily practice. It happens every time you release a worry you cannot solve, every time you choose action over endless overthinking, and every time you accept that perfection is neither possible nor necessary. These moments may seem small, but together they reshape the way you experience life. Instead of carrying the impossible burden of controlling every outcome, you begin carrying confidence in your ability to adapt. As trust grows stronger, fear loses its power to dominate your choices. You begin to understand that peace is not found in having complete certainty about tomorrow, but in believing that whatever tomorrow brings, You will meet it with wisdom, courage, and grace. Your heart becomes less occupied with imagined disasters and more open to present opportunities. The future remains unknown, yet it no longer feels threatening because your confidence is no longer rooted in controlling every detail, but in trusting your resilience, your purpose, and the quiet strength that has carried you through every season of your life so far.